All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Olga Makarova. I'm a reference librarian in the Slavic Reference Service here at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. Thank you very much for joining us for Meet the National Libraries series. We started this series a couple of years ago to introduce scholars and researchers around the world to collections and tools available at the national libraries, and also make national libraries a little bit more known outside their home countries and all the projects that they're carrying on and helping scholars in different ways. A little spoiler alert, in May we'll be featuring National Library of Mexico, but today we are very honored to feature National Library of Latvia. Very grateful that our colleagues in Latvia agreed to participate and stayed later. It's evening in Latvia right now. And we're joined today by Director of the Special Collections Department, Dagnija Baltiņa, and Director of Digital Development Department, Karīna Bandere, who are going to talk about the National Library of Latvia in the digital age as a place for research and as a destination. A little bit housekeeping, we ask everyone to have your mics off for the duration of presentations, and then at the end we'll have time for Q&A. And Dagnija, Karīna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone for coming and joining this session. We are very honored to be given this opportunity to present the National Library of Latvia to all of you, because also likewise we have been following all the previous sessions, Meet the National Libraries, with great curiosity, and we have been quite inspired, and it has become a very nice platform to exchange and learn about other activities. We are very grateful to the Slavic Reference Service of the University of Illinois Library, who has invited us, and I'm also very thankful to you, Olga Makarova, and your colleague Joe Lankart. But let's start, because time is running and we have to catch up everything and to show off everything we have prepared to show to you. We were thinking of actually how to start the presentation to make you actually imagine and be present here and actually take a tour around the National Library. So I would like to start by sharing with you a short video of the location where we are. Let's start. I share the sound and let's have a look at this video. So welcome to the National Library of Latvia. That's the first thing to say. So I hope you got a little bit of feeling of how it feels here. We will not be having that much time to give you all the details of all the various events like the cultural program happening here, but I will give you some insight that we can manage in the given time. So let's start. Welcome to the National Library of Latvia. My colleague Karīna Bandere and myself will be introducing our library to you today, and please follow our talk. So let me see, I think it works. So I will just start with shortly introducing Latvia, then giving you general information, then talking about National Library of Latvia and its collections, then National Library in the research, National Library as a destination, then my colleague will take over and elaborate on the National Library in the digital age, and then we'll finalize and finish and sum up our talk with highlights of today. Just to give you a very quick introduction where we are standing. Latvia is a European country located in Northern Europe by the Baltic Sea. We are approximately 1.9 million inhabitants. Latvia is a member of the European Union and NATO since 2004. We use Euro, and our official language in Latvia is Latvian. So this is very brief, but if we want to look at the history of Latvia, which I will not have time enough to tell to you, but I will tell you a little bit of book history, which coincides greatly with the overall history of Latvia. The concept of book in Latvian, it's grāmata, in the territory of Latvia has been known already before the 13th century, when the country of Livonia was formed. In Livonia, books were stored mainly in monasteries, and they're related to religious movements. But in general, we can talk that printed materials and printed material from various markets in Europe start coming to the territory of Latvia already beginning of the second half of the 15th century. And the oldest known printed text in Latvian comes from 1525, which also is the time when approximately we can start talking of the establishment of the oldest library in Latvia, Riga Public Library, Riga City Library. So this is also dates back 500 years. The main focal points of book history very much explains and could be traced along also the overall history of Latvia, which is the Reformation, the Enlightenment period, the Latvian Awakening, and of course, independence. Unfortunately, of course, over the course of the history, books and our book history of the written word in Latvian is also a testimony of various impacts wars and changing powers have had on our history. Yet still, we can say that over the years, what we read from the book history and what we see from it is that we have been very active and present in the overall development of book in European context. The National Library of Latvia possesses all the functions characteristic of a national library already since its foundation. And next to compiling of the national bibliography, creating collections of various kinds of literature, storing the collections, and being the development center for the public library system, it is also the main body to acquire and keep those printed publications and documents in all the various formats and carriers which are significant for development of Latvian statehood, culture, science, national economy, education, and ensure utilization thereof. Itself as an institution, National Library of Latvia was founded on August 29 in 1919. And of course, the corpus of the National Library of Latvia was first created by taking over various collections of cultural and educational institutions, and by inheriting or purchasing special collections or even whole libraries from various sources, including from Baltic German societies and individuals. The library's books and other materials still retain a lot of these past experiences and testimonies of people's faiths over several generations and even centuries. Already from 1920, the library starts receiving the legal deposit copy of Latvian printed editions, And today, according to the law on legal deposits, the National Library of Latvia has the right and the duty to receive and retain all Latvian printed matter, unconventional literature, electronic publications, and online publications. Publishers in Latvia have a legal obligation to send copies to each of their publications to the National Library of Latvia. Other laws that are relevant to us are, of course, library law, copyright law, and other various bylaws by the Cabinet of Ministers. And governmentally, currently, the National Library of Latvia is a state cultural institution of national importance under the supervision of the Ministry of Culture. To highlight some aspects from our history, it is already in 1920s and 30s that we notice and we see National Library of Latvia, it's called then State Library, flourishing. And despite various challenges of the newly established state, the National Library of Latvia already clearly positions itself. It is that the bibliographical index, Latvian Science and Literature, is being compiled and continuously updated for many years. In 1924, Latvia joins the Brussels Convention that envisages the international exchange of printed materials. In 1927, we joined IFLA, and we are actually very active members of this institution. But of course, everything changes with all the occupations coming. But before the occupations come, the collection of the National Library approaches approximately 1 million items. Of course, the two occupations greatly affected the character and the functions of the National Library. And over this period, our library was reorganized several times, and various special collections were added and taken away from it for several times. Of course, all the participation in international organizations is stopped. A lot of books published in earlier years of the Soviet era were brought in from the USSR, other countries in great numbers, while other part of the existing collection were just banned and brought away from public access. And that's why in 1946, the so-called Spetsfonds, or the special collection, not to mistake, its closed stack, actually was created to store anti-Soviet or banned publications. This included books and periodicals from mainly 1920s and 1930s, also later on Latvian Exile Press and various individual collections. The closed stack was opened to public again in 1988 and then fully abolished and liquidated in 1990. It should be noted that during this time, there are also other restrictions on access to information and literature, which were then finally canceled by the reestablishment of independence. For example, from 1972 till 1988, a part of Latvian exile literature collection was taken away from the library, and the possibility of such book storage was prohibited. Yet from 1988, the National Library of Latvia resumed to collect Latvian exile literature, and currently we have quite a representative collection of it. At the same time, with the restoration of independence, Latvian libraries set a number of broad goals, one being this development of this new venue for the library, second being creation of a unified library information network, and then of course later on development of Latvian National Digital Library. Also, the future goals covered also reading promotion for children and new technology acquisition for seniors, research development, and others, just going with the time. It coincides with the fact that the decision of the ministers then in the Latvian SSR adopted the decision on building a new state library building, which then consequently follows that in 2014, the new building was opened. The library structure as of now is very diverse and very like a tree, has a lot of functions and is very influential, proactive, acting, caring leader of ideas And it actually has become an impulse for a lot of positive changes that have taken place over the years. And you can see it also from the organizational chart that there are 8 large departments, various sections for support and strategic leadership, and there's also editorial office of the National Encyclopedia. There are currently 343 employees in total, which is quite a big institution. I think we are among the biggest national cultural institutions in Latvia. There are many people with PhDs working at the National Library. There are a lot of librarians by training working here, but in general, the staff of the National Library is very diverse and I would say interdisciplinary. Over the ups and downs of the history, the National Library of Latvia has been treasured with various long-standing leaders. And the current director, Andris Vilks, is a director since 1989. He's himself formerly a rare book librarian, and currently he is one of the most prominent specialists of the library and information sciences, but most importantly on book and library history. Since 1989, Andris Vilks has also been the driving force developing the project of the National Library of Latvia, the Castle of Light, which includes this, the construction of this new building, and of course, the overall library network in Latvia. I know many of you know him from various international platforms where he is an active member of, and where also National Library is represented. Additionally, our leadership team consists of the executive director and all department directors, plus all the special task leaders like on international relations, chief architect, human resource person, finance director, and so on and so forth. We have arranged that our administration meets weekly on a regular basis, weekly twice, once in a bigger group, second time in a smaller group. So we are all the time in an information loop. On a bigger scale, the whole library staff resume monthly, once in a month, for information sessions. Being an institution that takes an important role in various sectors, not only cultural sector, which is also on education, science, regional development, IT development, and so on and so forth, our strategy and priorities are largely emerging from our vision of how we support the society of Latvia in large and various sectors. Hence, our mission stated in the strategy of the National Library of Latvia is to maintain the significance of the library in a changing world. But of course, it is our collections that are an indispensable part of Latvia's international cultural heritage that provides us with a unique scope of knowledge and content in all areas of Lectonica and other research that gives us a very good backbone in a way to rely upon. Also, we continue developing National Library of Latvia collections. So we support Latvia's representation and international recognition, and for people's sense of belonging to the Latvian cultural space. We'll be sending later to you after this presentation the current strategy of the National Library of Latvia, so you can read in more detail about our vision and goals. Talking about our collection, currently our collection is more than 4.3 million physical items, and we are the biggest and largest universal scientific library in Latvia, the basis and core of which, in accordance with its main purpose and mission, is the national collection and Lectonica, Latvian publications and publications about Latvia and Latvians published abroad. Along with the national collection, we also have an extensive development of branch literature in foreign languages, and it consists of purposefully acquired collections in selected sciences, in-depth development of collection in social sciences and humanities, cultural, artistic research, and various interdisciplinary sciences. The national stock based on Latvian publications makes up to 70% of the total collection. We are also the venue where people turn to and come, and we have a lot of readers. We have in total 100 We have in total about 165,000 registered readers, out of which about 25,000 are active visitors and readers at the National Library, coming here on a regular basis. In general, we have reading spaces for more than 1,000 readers and 15 reading rooms. And library currently is open Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the afternoon, more in the afternoon, and Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, more in the morning. There's also individual study cabins, there's a piano room, there are a lot of various learning spaces, group study spaces, audiovisual material reviewing cabins, and so forth, so on and so forth. Library is also suited for visually impaired people and people with limited mobility. We are open to all age groups, and in general, digital library, of course, is open 24/7. The National Library of Latvia also fulfills the functions of the Latvian Interlibrary Loan Center and of International Interlibrary Loan. Most publications we provide to our readers are loaned from libraries in Germany, Finland, Sweden, Estonia, and Norway. As our discovery service, we use Primo, that simultaneously allows to search subscribed and free access databases, the Union Catalog of the National Library, and databases created by the National Library, like National Bibliography, database of small prints and graphic editions, database of rare books and manuscripts, and so on and so forth. So this is what this one search point. And of course, and at the end, we also provide access to more than 45 online subscribed databases. Next to providing spaces for learning, we also provide services for learning. And there are a lot of information literacy trainings taking place at the National Library, how to search, how to select, how to retrieve information, how to use online catalog, how to use all the databases, how to use the Union Catalog, how to use digital collections. We are well aware that this is a very important function to actually learn and support learning of our readers of how to actually acquire and access our values and treasures. National Library of Latvia constantly updates and adjusts the topics of trainings to the specific study and research needs. And we also actively cooperate with various higher education institutions, with teacher associations, with various research groups of their needs. More specifically, next to these trainings on the library services, we also provide a lot of space for younger people regarding media literacy, information literacy, cultural education, career education, and other aspects. But of course, we can't always have all the possibilities. We don't have all the possibilities to tell everything at once. So over the COVID pandemic, we developed our digital guide. So if anyone visiting the National Library can also learn about its functions, services, and history and spaces and everything by this digital guide. In general, this idea came because as we moved to this new venue in 2014, number of people who wanted to visit the National Library greatly increased, and in the last 5 years there have been approximately almost 135,000 people visiting National Library as visitors, and there have been in total almost more than 400,000 individual visitors who were eager to learn about this place. So we developed this digital guide in various languages, and currently it's also available online, even if you are not here at the National Library, and you can just read about all these spaces later on by yourselves. But of course, this building within itself is a gem, is a treasure, an attraction for people to come here. And it is that the first serious discussions on the need for a new library building emerged already in at the end of 1920s, because National Library, after its establishment, was just placed in various buildings of former other functions. But National Library of Latvia never had its own building, which was built for the purpose of a library. So the first need and call for a new venue was already called by the end of 1920s. In 1970s, there was a first drafts and designs being developed. And then in 1988, there was this very interesting idea to approach very famous Latvian architect, Gunārs Birkerts, a resident of the United States, already known for his very, very important also library buildings, whether he would like to design the National Library of Latvia. And he, of course, he accepted this offer. And it was, of course, I would say both the coincidence, but also the very, very lucky moment of all the people who were involved. That design was started to develop, and we got and more support, including from UNESCO, because there is there are only two national libraries that have ever received support from UNESCO for their development. One is the National Library of Latvia, and the second is the famous National Library of Alexandria in Egypt. So over the years, it was architect Gunārs Birkerts himself, and also the library director Andris Vilks, who both, armed with great conviction and determination, were basically the key drivers behind the development of libraries' complex construction, and in general, all the debates and disputes and contestations and everything that comes along with such a complex project. But of course, at the end of the day, the new building was opened in 2014. In designing the Castle of Light, particular attention was paid to the proximity of the Daugava River, because just if you look at the picture, on your left already is the Daugava, because of course it would be affected by the rising waters and everything. For this reason, the library's repository is situated in the middle of the building, starting from a height of 6 meters. So this was also one very practical approach when developing this new venue. And in total, the building is 68 meters high, and the total area is more than 40,000 square meters. It's very interesting how symbolically loaded this building in, and we can talk about it over and over again. But of course, it is this very strong metaphors and references to the most important images of Latvian folk legends and folk songs that has, I would say, also been one of the successes of the building itself. And of course, the glass mountain as the symbol of the whole building itself. There are, whenever you walk in the building, you will see a lot of references to our culture, to our nature, to our folk songs, to our most famous works of literature. Like, for example, now this is a picture of the floor of the National Library, which is woven in sense like a traditional linen towel in Latvia. So all around you see these references and this very strong rooting in our national consciousness and awareness. Already by design, the new building of the National Library contained this idea of the people's bookshelf. That there will be a bookshelf that extends from the mezzanine level up to the 5th floor as an open shelf, which is to be filled with books that are individually donated by everyone. That's why it's people's bookshelf, from Latvia and abroad, anybody who comes to the National Library. And each donated book has its own history and inscription that tells the story why this specific book is being donated to the National Library of Latvia. And everyone can donate a special book. And all new books are stored on the people's bookshelf, and you can see it all along. And they're also accessible online. The register of these books are accessible online. Today, the shelf already holds more than 7,000 books in 46 languages, including gifts from presidents, ministers, members of royal houses presented on the occasion of visiting Latvia and the library's centenaries. What is to be said that this library, this bookshelf, has become a very common, I would say, an important point to visit during all the official state visits. Just to add, in 2016, Joe Biden also visited National Library of Latvia, and this is his donation with his inscription. So we do have a lot of these treasures and very personal touches already preserved and built up in the People's Bookshelf. Likewise, another idea around the whole building are various private islands or private libraries to serve as think tanks and reminders of various previous owners and their environment of thought, to recreate in a way sense of how these famous people, like for example, the architect himself, which were the books they lived among, and got inspired and created their masterpieces. We have quite a lot of these experiences. We have quite a lot of these smaller donated library corners or islands that actually pay tribute both these important personalities, but also allow to look into their way of thinking. Likewise, we also have very special corners donated to special names at National Library, and similarly paying tribute to library architect Gunnar Birkerts and the fact that John Fitzgerald Kennedy, while being a student during his European trip, also visited Riga in 1939. There is also a John Fitzgerald Kennedy reading room in cooperation with the US Embassy, where there is a lot of literature being accumulated if anybody studies in this regards. But again, we come back to the very backbone of the National Library. And of course, this backbone is these national collections and these special collections. Because every national library defines itself, I think, by these special collections. And for us, these are special collections that are of relevance to Latvia and the Baltic cultural space. Those are the rare books and manuscripts which contain this age and time value. There are a lot of cartographic materials, music and sheet music, sound and video recordings, art and literature and image collections, and everything else that has these values, including there's a lot of attention recently, especially being paid to ownership value and provenance value, and comprehensiveness and integrity. Just to give you a quick overview, we have very large collection of periodicals, including some of which are not to be found elsewhere. Like, for example, there is a collection of Bolshevik newspapers from early 20th century, which are not found elsewhere. There are also a large collection of old prints in Latvian and published in Latvia, and we are the ones also at the National Library who are the drivers of creating all the bibliographies and historical research in this regard. There are also very unique manuscripts related to the specific themes in the history of Latvia, like, for example, manuscripts by Moravian brethren or Perpetual Calendar by Andrews George, developed during the time of prohibition of Latin print in one of the Latvian regions. There is also this wholeness of a lot of collections was safeguarded by the National Library of Latvia. For example, the wholeness of the works of Latvian composers and music publishing. There are also very impressive sound recording collections. Of course, there are these, in a way, legal deposit collections, but more recently, we also start developing these very interesting audiovisual collections, which we digitize currently, but my colleague will talk about it more, which are related to various events, and especially in the second half of the 20th century, like, for example, a collection of recordings from Radio Free Europe. We also have a large collection of posters, which is also digitized. We have an impressive collection of small prints, and I would say we are the biggest source of anything. If anything is lost, then it might be found here at the National Library. We also have a very impressive collection of maps, which is also fully available and well taken care of. We have also collections of photographies and many other things. So being very well aware of the importance of these collections, it has been a very strong decision, I would say, in strategical action to work towards research and to develop and evolve into a very vocal, active, and important institution in the Latvian research environment and landscape. While it has already carried out many responsibilities and roles of a scientific institution already from its foundation in 1919, it is actually only in 2007 that the National Library of Latvia is registered as a scientific institution. The main fields of research are related to book history, documentary heritage, digital humanities, data and knowledge, organization research of historical and contemporary publishing, publishing statistics, reading history and contemporary, reading research, fundamental research of our National Library collections. So it's very diverse, very deep, very wide, sometimes specific, but it's very unique, and basically we are the only ones and the driving force behind most of these topics. Of course, when we have to think of what do we do as research institutions, of course, we carry out a lot of very traditional actions, like international conferences and events and seminars and workshops and lectures. But I have to say what we are unique as a National Library, I think, are our research projects. And we have been carrying out quite a lot of research projects recently. I can name you a lot of them, and all of them are very important, but I want to highlight just one of them, which is the project that focuses on developing a specific solution offered for the unified and accurate research and discovery of Latvia's digital cultural heritage on the web. It is actually, this is the Latvian Memory Institution data in the digital space. So what I'm pointing out is that our research projects are often the ones where we invite a lot of other cultural institutions to cooperate with, to become the platform for exchange of ideas and to move forward with various solutions. Hence, the open data portal is worth mentioning because we have opened various ontologies from the National Library of Latvia, fully human readable and searchable by anyone. Also, a very unique contribution to the research landscape is our research on publishing in Latvia, which includes both various data sets that anybody can use later by themselves, but also very traditional national bibliography data sets over the last periods. These are other more, I would say, more fundamental research projects we have been carrying out, and of course the outcome of which are these magnificent publications by the National Library, which have also received a lot of awards, both from the point of book art, but also for their scientific contribution and excellence. But again, when we come to the 21st century research projects, we talk about that we must diversify the way how we communicate with the society. And this one book is just as a symbol of a research project that ended up with a book being published, an actual exhibition taking place at the National Library, a virtual exhibition being created on Urbana, a database being created, and a set of publications, scientific publications internationally, plus international seminar. So wherever we see our role, we see that we have to diversify the way how we reach and connect with various audiences. And here I have to say that in general, the tradition of research communication is not anything new at the National Library of Latvia, because it actually happens already from the very first days that we can start talking about extensive research on Latvian book history in the National Library in the 1960s, because this is the moment where also the first permanent exhibition on Latvian book history was opened. And hence, National Library of Latvia becomes the space, the venue for impulse, as well as platform for new approaches, ideas, and events. because also the book History First Permanent Exhibition is also quite an event on a national level, and it continuously serves for the purpose of communicating very important national narratives also during the Soviet era. But currently, as we have moved to the new building, one of our biggest tools and instruments are our exhibitions. I'm very sorry, it's 4:45, so people are being asked, or it's being said that the time is over. The library is closing. I will let this tell.
Dear visitors, the library will be closing in 15 minutes.
But we'll continue. We are not closing yet. So in any case, so these exhibition spaces are the ones that allow us to actually really evolve and develop our communication function. And these are the exhibitions which are not only exhibitions where we put something on the wall. These are exhibitions which are mutually developed by exhibition curators, researchers, librarians, bibliographers. There are many players working together in order to create great narratives. Of course, the biggest of our great narratives is the permanent exhibition Book in Latvia that was opened in 2016 and then currently displays the story of book history and history related to book in Latvia. And it has 4 parts. It has the chronological part explaining the chronology. It has the sensual part showing the book and allowing to sense it and touch it. A part of a spirit allowing to interact with a book. And pointing out of various aspects of our book history related to the power relation. What has been one of the greatest, again, successes for our exhibitions is that most of our exhibitions are being accompanied with detailed museum programs. This is not only the permanent exhibition Book in Latvia, but all other ones. And I will now just quickly go through before I give floor to Karīna. So, the exhibitions that have been of outstanding impact and value have been the first opening exhibition, 1514, the book, 2014, which we really made an opening event of the whole new venue when the National Library was opened, inviting a lot of donations and loans from our European colleagues and displaying this momentum and explaining the value of the book. This was a very important event. We also work not only with book, but also in general with publishing. So we made an exhibition of print workshop showing various publishing machines and methods and approaches, actually demonstrating them and having here exhibited a lot of these machines also from previous times. We also involve with great topical narratives, like, for example, the 500 years of Reformation, when we made an exhibition on Luther, the Turn. We also think of how to communicate various, I would say, not so easily communicative materials like sheet music. And this was an exhibition on sheet music, on sound and signs of how sheet music has evolved over times. We also, in cooperation with our Baltic colleagues from Estonia and Lithuania, developed this, I would say, very impressive exhibition on books, which were banned by the occupations that came in 1940. We also make exhibitions that allow to look into these invisible stories and histories before. For example, this was the library. This was an exhibition that was devoted for our 100th anniversary, telling the stories of National Library's historic collections, which are otherwise invisible for a normal viewer, but then for this celebratory event became available in total. And then, of course, this we also dare displaying just one item in an exhibition, and this was the most recent exhibition which we had, The Turn, the oldest surviving book in Latvian from 1585, which was loaned from Uppsala University Library as a very unique treasure because this is the oldest surviving book in Latvian language. So we displayed this one item in the whole exhibition area. Just to conclude and give floor to Karīna, I just want to say that this was an exhibition about ourselves, because we are very well aware that we also have to constantly both look at ourselves and see how we can evolve. And this is the part where Karīna comes in, of how we evolve in the digital age. I stop sharing, Karīna, and then I will come back again. Thank you.
Oh, hello, hello everyone. My name is Karīna Bandere, and I'm very grateful and thankful to Slavonic Reference Library Service for organizing such a useful series of seminar, and I really find them very interesting for myself to get to know what's going on in different national libraries and what processes they are organizing. So now I should find my presentation and share it with you. So here it comes. So is it in the full screen view?
No,
it's loading.
Let's see.
Karīna, mēs redzam tavu notes pār sadaļu.
Yeah, just a second. I will correct.
Yeah, full screen. Yeah.
So no, it's fine. So my task is just to give a short, brief an insight about the digital library of Latvia. The origins of the formation of the National Digital Library of Latvia date back to the late 1990s when the library bought first scanning equipment and started small-scale in-house digitization and first steps in developing first digital collections. Since then, we have experienced two more development stages. In 2008, we started large-scale digitization projects, and in the next 5 to 7 years, we significantly developed digital library infrastructure, including development of digital object management system, new services to give access to the library digital collections, and also this unified search engine for the digital collections. In 2015, under the leadership of the National Library, for the first time, we developed a common digital cultural heritage strategy for archives, libraries, and museums, which actually marked a new era and much closer cooperation between memory institutions, and made possible to work together to do real work and development on digital infrastructure. So we are implementing the project program called Digitization of Cultural Heritage Content, which has to be finished this year. So we really are looking forward to succeed all results by the end of 2022. The project program is financed by the European Regional Development Fund. So, as a logic conclusion of all these previous steps, the library, the National Library of Latvia at present is leading the Cultural Heritage Competence Center, which is a collaboration in sharing digital competences between main national cultural heritage institutions, which are the National Library of Latvia, the National Archive, the Cultural Heritage Board, the National Culture Center, which is taking care of intangible cultural heritage competence, and also Cultural Information System Center, which is representing competence of museums. So this collaboration is based on commonly signed agreement, and is a sustainability instrument for continuing to coordinate this development work and also the implementation of development policies. The National Library of Latvia is the only cultural heritage institution that is developing cross-institutional and cross-sectoral digital cultural heritage resources. And of course, therefore, they also are the leading partner of the integrated digital cultural heritage platform that is a national level system-based platform to ensure the process of creation of digital cultural heritage, management, preservation, and also distribution of digital objects. The platform includes the National Digital Object Management and Register, also unified copyright management and licensing system, also harmonization of cultural heritage reference data and its unified management and register, which we see as really great success as we managed to negotiate all these different data models between archives, libraries, and also museums. And as well as also this unified national level dissemination service of digital cultural heritage. As one of the largest holders of cultural and scientific documents, especially text resources, the National Library is integral part of national infrastructure for digital humanities and also social science. We also provide different services, tools for digital humanities and act as competence hub. The search engine of the digital library is an already existing service that initially was developed for unified distribution of all digital collection, particularly of our National Library, as a core system and service of this national digital platform. It is being currently developed, and its objective is to combine the digital resources of different Latvian cultural heritage holders in one reliable source of information and give a central access point to all digital cultural heritage resources in Latvia, as well as to create solution fitting for different user groups, especially for researchers, improving access and facilitating the use of digital resources. Currently, the National Library of Latvia offers access to 1.5 million units of periodicals, more than 500,000 books, and around 300,000 images, more than 900 maps, and 96,000 sound and video materials from the National Library of Latvia, and also 100 other institutions and 370 private individuals. We are really glad to plan a launching of new digital library unified search service in late autumn of this year, and we will provide a unified access to already existing digital content, and also plus we will provide access to digital content of all museums, the National Archive and also the National Heritage Board, and plus also the Union Catalog of the Libraries of National Importance, ELF, National Catalog of Museums, National Unified Archival System and Management System of Culture Monuments. Also, the National Digital Library of Latvia is accessible using the integrated search engine. It also offers individual digital collections for periodicals, books, maps, images, audiovisual materials, sound, and different thematic digital collections. We offer access to around 20 digital collections. We also do a web harvesting on an everyday basis and hold an archive of Latvian websites. Archived websites can be viewed only in library reading rooms on some specific computers. For an insight into diversity of digital collections and different digital resources, I would like to introduce you with some of them in more details. The largest digital collections are collections of books and collection of periodicals. The periodicals website includes approximately 1,500 sets of title periodicals and magazines. In total, 8 million pages from periodicals published in Latvia and abroad during the period from the mid-18th century through the present day. According to estimation of my colleagues, at least 80% of periodicals, of national periodicals that have been published in Latvia have been digitized already and can be accessed in this periodicals website. On the books website are available about 13,000 books, which include publications of cultural and historical importance published from the 16th century to the present day. Both resources provide full text search and also personalized search options. In March of 2020, only a few days after COVID pandemic restrictions was announced in our country, the National Library of Latvia signed an agreement on licensing and opening of digital content of books and periodicals for free of charge. And we managed to agree to continue this agreement until the end of 2020. This also made a precedent, and the library managed to negotiate with the collective copyright management organization on reasonable fee and reasonable license conditions that allows us to continue this opening of digitized content also this year. After opening of content, as you can see on screen, usage statistic raised immediately, and we had consistently 2 times more users than before the March of 2020, until a summer of last year, which was really very sunny and nice. And even library managed to manage different changes due to COVID restrictions, and all reading rooms were opened. The statistic dropped down, and actually we now are in this level of 2019. So it's a really interesting phenomenon to study on. What are these complex social processes which change this usage statistic? Another interesting and useful collection is collection of historical maps. It includes thousands of maps which were published during the period from the start of the 17th century through to present days. The collection offers an opportunity to browse, search for, and select maps, search for places and addresses, measure areas and distances, and to compare historical cartographical data with contemporary data. A very unique collection is handwritings on the Moravian Brethren. This collection offers unique materials in Latvian cultural history. The Moravian church body of texts, which were created with the involvement of several thousand Latvian farmers from Vidzem under the influence of the Moravian Brethren during the 18th century and first half of the 19th century. The collection includes original works by Moravian Brethren with historical, biographical, and religious contents, reworked translations, and transcripts. As a gift to Latvia centenary in 2018, we launched the Song Festival repository. This digital collection is dedicated to the history of Latvia's Song and Dance Festival from very beginning through to the present day. The collection contains over 5,000 digitized units from the collections of cultural and memory institutions and also private holders. This includes posters, photographs, publications, festival organizing documents, sheet musics, audio recordings, recollections of leading conductors and directors, as well as other materials. You can also use and view information in interactive data visualization, which allows you to see what songs have been performed in which festival and what are really the famous songs, and the same also for dance repertoire. The most visited digital collection and one of the oldest one is collection In Search of Lost Latvia. The collection offers the opportunity to view over 51,000 images that reflects Latvia's history. The collection contains digital drawings, postcards, and photographs from the second half of the 19th century through to the present day, as well as descriptions, very valuable descriptions of objects and persons visible in these images. This collection is a great example of crowdsourcing and citizen science. The collection has been formed not only in collaboration with cultural institutions, but also with private individuals and society as a whole. Everybody can send in their images and photographs and improve descriptions of objects. So the National Digital Library of Latvia and its collections as such are important digital research instrument, but I would like to draw your attention to two more resources that are developed specially for digital humanities, science researchers and students. So Rainis un Aspazī collection is the first digital cross-sectional cultural heritage collection in linked data form in Latvia. It highlights libraries' efforts in developing new knowledge base for memory institutions and researchers. The collection incorporates publications of works by both famous Latvian writers, letters, and other text documents, as well as photographs, posters, audio and video materials. It demonstrates both the mutual connection between these items, as well as a historical background and link to external objects in the form of people, institutions, places, and events. All letters are annotated, semantically encoded, and the original of each letter has been linked to its transcribed text, and some letters have been also translated. And the very last resource I would like to introduce you to is Latvian Prose Counter. It is an interactive website that allows to explore various quantitative parameters of 19th and 20th century Latvian prose fiction, including counting, analyzing, and visualizing various lexical and syntactical features of full text of novels and stories, as well as analyzing statistics of public publishing. The Prose Counter is a demonstration tool that is aimed first at informing users of the possibilities of textual analysis, but also it is an environment for the library, for ourselves, to test various analysis functionalities that could be implemented and integrated in the National Digital Library. And at the end, I would like to summarize some points that might be useful to know for you for your research. First, full access to full texts in periodicals and books are available until the end of 2020, and it means by the end of this year. We really hope to continue this licensing also for next periods. All digital objects are accessible free of charge in all digital collections. The digital objects which can be viewed and downloaded can also be used for your personal purposes, but any reuse of digital objects that are copyright restricted have to be agreed with an author. We also offer digitization on demand service for your convenience. It's a paid service. Data corpora from collection of both digitized and digitally created text for use in computerized analysis for research and study purposes can also be ordered. You just have to write to us and we will really try to find individual attitude to your request. I invite you to look into digitalhumanities.lv website, what introduce on digital humanities tools, actors, events, and other relevant information on digital humanities in Latvia. And as the very last one, I would like you to invite to use opportunities that is offered by this unified national level dissemination service, digitalabiblioteka.lv. And I wish you to have great explorations and really to find great treasures from the whole cultural heritage domain. So thank you, and by this I give the floor back to Dagnija.
Thank you very much, Karīna. I will also just quickly start sharing my screen. I think everybody, I hope, is now already almost searching it. But I just wanted to give a final touch to our presentation because there are some things beyond that we could not elaborate in more detail, but we want you to know. One of the things is that I mentioned partly in the structural organizational chart is that National Library of Latvia is also the one that's developing the National Encyclopedia. And I think it is one very, very strong again, statement we are making, and we feel it's very important for the role of the National Libraries in general, that it is important and it is a task of a National Library to stand in guard of reliable and trustable information in national languages and knowledge creation in national languages. And thus, we have started developing the National Encyclopedia in Latvia. It's currently accessible through the link you see there, encyclopedia.lv. It also had its printed edition only in Latvian in 2019. But I think it is a very good source also if you're looking for a general introduction on various topics related to Latvia. It's a very good entrance point, which is also nicely linked to various resources at the digital library, digitalabiblioteka.lv. The second thing I would like you to know is our work as a National Library and involvement in various reading promotion activities. The National Library of Latvia has this, I would say, very famous floor. It's called the Seventh Heaven because it's the Children's Literature Center, which is located on the 7th floor of the National Library. So it's called the Seventh Heaven. And it has been also one of our very strong statements that we do see the purpose of promoting reading in children. And that is why we are actively involved and on a regular basis organize various events to promote reading. One of these being reading juries for small children, for youngsters, and for their adults. The third thing I would like to just wrap it up is that also National Library of Latvia has a very large collection preservation center on our cellars, which is, I would say, one of the, which is very big center employee-wise and staff-wise, but also expert-wise. And hence National Library of Latvia is often the center of paper preservation to whom other institutions also turn to. And we are quite actively involved in also driving the overall professional debate related to book preservation, paper preservation challenges, also other paper-related material preservation issues and topicalities. We often acquire various funds for training, for not our own staff training, but also for the overall Latvian professional environment in preservation. And of course, one of the events is the 500th anniversary of the Latvian book. As you noticed, as I started with, it is approaching the 500 years since we know the first book was printed in Latvian language. The book itself hasn't survived, but the impact it has had over these 500 years is very tangible. And that is why we, as a National Library, we have proposed, and it has also been included in Latvian cultural policy, this 500th anniversary as a very strong backbone of all the cultural sectors, but also economic, educational, scientific institutions to join around this narrative of the Latvian book and this phenomenon. What we will focus upon would be various anniversaries, various important individual issues of books, various publishers and printing houses in Latvia and their relation to various processes around Europe, their influence on various processes. We'll also focus on various personalities and, of course, history of libraries and what people were reading in the territory of the present-day Latvia. And what we want to succeed, actually, is that we want to highlight a lot of these, I would say, turning points of history that are related directly or even coming out of reading and book-related phenomena in Latvia. We also want to contribute with new research, including debunking various myths on various understandings or underestimations. And of course, we want to contextualize the importance of book and the written word in Latvian in various fields, also with a perspective of the potential development of written word in Latvian today and in the future in relation and with challenges instigated by all the digital changes that we are currently living through. And finally, I also want to say that National Library of Latvia is currently also very active in gathering the support and showing all the support to Ukraine. And it was our idea and proposal to create a platform to collect support for safeguarding cultural heritage in Ukraine with means that we can actually provide with, namely all the conservation materials and packaging materials that is currently very much needed. So also National Library of Latvia is very actively involved in this, and we are coordinating. Also other national cultural institutions are cooperating with us in this regard, and we are very happy that we can support Ukraine in this way. And just to finalize and to conclude, I invite you to follow us on various platforms. We have mostly these weekly news are in Latvian, but still you can follow and just see what is happening, but also please follow us on various social networks and all the activities. And you're always welcome visiting us in presence, and we'll be happy meeting you in presence or in other digital meetings in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dagnija and Karīna, for these fascinating presentations and for sharing the reaches and all the projects of your wonderful library. It's just fascinating. I think we do have some time for questions. So if you have any questions, you can either raise your hand or put them in chat. Or unmute and ask it or type, whatever is easier.
But again, I have to show that we'll be very happy to just share our email addresses. So if any question rises, we'll be happy to answer them also afterwards. So it's not a push. We'll be in your service if you would need.
Thank you. I think there was one question on the form, and since you ended with welcoming researchers, I was wondering if you can tell a little bit more you know, if there are any specific steps for researchers from, you know, coming from here, for instance, to come and work at the National Library of Latvia. Yes.
Well, I think we're always very welcome if they come as researchers. They just contact us in advance and we'll be very happy to providing more, I would say, prepared services for them. Because library, they will be welcomed as any other readers. But if they would like to cooperate in a project, then again, they just contact us and we'll be very happy to look into how we can help and support their visits and prepare their visits. And I think in general, when we talk about currently, libraries would be one of the spaces where we'll be still talking, despite that it looks like, because in order to succeed most, we'll be talking a lot with each other to support our readers and users of our collections. And this is also currently what we are very much working on, to become really mentors to our readers and partners in their research, so we can serve also their purposes. So all the researchers are very welcome. But again, we are very happy to, yes, I do see we will send you information afterwards about the Ukrainian endangered heritage. But again, if the best case would be if there's a specific interest, just to write advance to us. We're very open to that.
Thank you. I think there is a question. What is your personal favorite holding in the collection?
Art collection. I like the art collection. Oh, I really like our art collection. I find it so nice. The posters, I really like them. That's my favorite, actually, yes.
What about you, Karīna?
It's really complicated question for me, as I'm not working in everyday basis with these real analog collections, but most probably I would choose music and sheet music and audio recordings.
Oh, I do read, you mean Radio Free Europe, are there transcripts of the Radio Free Europe recordings? No, there are no transcripts. You can listen to them. They're not transcribed, but you can listen to them. If there is a project and we would transcribe them, that would be a different approach, but they're not transcribed yet. The question is, when the Spets Fund was liquidated, were the collections of early Soviet materials maintained? Yeah, we did not liquidate in a way. We opened them to liquidation of Spets Fund meant that we took away the ban of access from these closed stack. That was what I mean liquidated. There is no such a category as closed stack because Spets Funds meant that there is a restrictions of access. So it was not anyhow eliminated, no. Liquidated means that this idea of a closed status, we don't have closed stacks at the moment, if that's the question. No, everything is fully accessible. And I think it was made accessible from 1988, but this idea of closed stack was totally banned later, a little bit later.
I have another question about any conferences or forums that are might be of interest to our audience that are organized by the National Library of Latvia or partially by the library.
Actually, we do have quite a program being prepared in regards to the 500th anniversary of the Latvian book. So I'm not sure whether we'll be able to, I can just share with you the programs we are having for the time being. We do have upcoming conferences, we have upcoming publications, we have upcoming events. So we'll be able to share them with you if you would like to either participate, because there are also international conferences. If you see that you would like to contribute, you're most welcome. So we can share that with you. We know for 2023 a conference upcoming. We know for 2024 a conference upcoming. So we have quite some of those milestones are already clear cut, stone cut.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be waiting for this updates and news. Right. Oh, maybe I have another question. Oh, is there? Okay, yes. Thank you, Victoria. So my question, it might be too broad, but I'd be curious, I'm sure since we're all kind of living in this, I guess now we can say post-pandemic, hopefully, world, and we all reflected on, this past 2 years and what changed and how it changed and what remains, unknown and needs to be researched more. If you could share maybe some of your reflections that, you at the National Library of Latvia had on, going through pandemic and, continuing after pandemic.
Karīna, would you like to? I think one of the things is what Karīna was telling about these licenses. This is one very important, I would say, outcome. And it has been a very important step for us that it's possible and how valuable it is and beneficial for all the society it is and how this open access works. So these are one of the conclusions, but also we have been very intensively seizing the moment and working with our physical collections also on describing and doing a lot of work we can do also with in distance of everything and in variously organizing our tasks. And that has been a very strong focus. But of course, I think one of the conclusions is that we are very much willing to bring as much our readers back to the real space. We would like to meet them back in presence. Karīna, would you like to add something? There's a question about Krišjāņa Baronas kapis. It is in the library. It is located here. It was moved from the Academy of Sciences, and the library is designed to host the cabinet of the folk songs. So it is here.
All right. Yes, since there are no more questions and we don't want you to, spend a lot of your after work time and want you to, have a good restful evening. So I guess we can conclude. Once again, I thank you very, very much for your time and for sharing all this wonderful projects and thoughts and ideas and visions that you shared with us. It was very informative and helpful. And yes, I guess we'll hope to be in touch. And of course, we hope to be able to visit you in person, hopefully before too long.
You're all very much welcome. And greetings to everyone who was following in and giving greetings to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, goodbye. And yes, the recording will be available and I'll send it in a couple of days. So yeah, have a very good evening and thank you.
Thank you, bye.